Friends, I'm not standing too far away from Town Square. Main Street, USA is not that far away from me, but let me tell you, emotionally, it feels miles and miles away. That's the art of design. That's the art of storytelling. That's the escapism that Disneyland provides not only for guests all around the world, but for people in Southern California trying to just escape the cost of living, being stacked on top of each other. Disneyland, just blocks away from where people live, gives them a complete escapism. And think about it, technically this land right here was once Disneyland. Cerritos Avenue ends so Disneyland can begin. Friends, I'm standing in an abandoned lot in the city of Anaheim, and believe it or not, where you see all of this abandoned space behind me, an overgrown field with beer bottles and trash sprinkled in it. If you keep going straight in this direction, you hit one of the most perfectly manicured streets you'll ever find in your life. Town Square, Main Street, USA, Walt's apartment, Disneyland is just straight in this path. But what it's left behind is the end of Cerritos Avenue, a street that the city of Anaheim was willing to cap off and give up so that Walt would have the property that he needed to make Disneyland. It's hard to say what would have became of this space, but walking through it now and thinking about the juxtaposition of this empty property and the beautiful town square, it's a bizarre price of progress. Friends, once again, the expansion series finds me in a bizarre spot. We are looking at the future of Disneyland Forward in a section which Disney is telling us is going to become part of the theme parks. Will it become a part of Disneyland and DCA or its own separate gate? Only the future can tell us that. I am very skeptical of this narrow sliver of land being its own theme park, but that's a different topic for a different time. Behind me, West Magic Way is going away. In the environmental proposal Disneyland gave over to the city of Anaheim, this road will be removed. But this isn't the first time that Disney has removed roads inside of Anaheim. In fact, there was a road that got removed so they could build Disneyland in the very first place. You know it as the Disneyland Fire Department, or more commonly, Walt Disney's private apartment that would sit up above Main Street, USA. But did you know that this location, right where I'm standing, is one of the greatest compromises in the history of Disneyland? In fact, it's a compromise that was so great, without this compromise, who knows if Walt's Little Park would have ever been built right here. So roughly where I'm standing, give or take, this is where Cerritos used to run through Anaheim. This land in here, Cerritos, this used to be Disneyland. This road right here was given up so that the theme park could be born and the Walt's vision could come true. Whereas people before me would walk on this path and it would be West Cerritos Avenue, today I'm standing in Town Square of Main Street, USA, where because of a compromise between the city of Anaheim and the Disneyland Resort, Walt was able to build his park right here. Today we're going to look at another road that's going away inside of Disneyland, but it's not the first time it's happened because these are the compromises that create Walt's masterpiece. One of the greatest compromises between the Disneyland Resort and the city of Anaheim. But back then, it was not the Disneyland Resort. It was Walt Disney and a cast of characters that brokered a deal with the city of Anaheim to remove one street so they would have all the land that they needed to build Disneyland. The company that was looking for land for Disneyland to find a home for Walt's upcoming vision of a park, they looked at a property that was just a little bit north of where I'm standing. But there was headwinds that people kind of figured out that somebody, they didn't know it was Walt Disney and they didn't know it was a theme park, but somebody was buying up land. So a ambitious business person jumped in, acquired a lot of land, and then started raising up the price, which almost made Anaheim down and out. Even though they were trying to keep the land buying somewhat of a secret from the city of Anaheim and the residents of Anaheim for good negotiations, they did lean on a couple of city of Anaheim officials, told them what the idea was, and Anaheim was definitely, instantly, all in on Disneyland. And they proposed taking the parcel of land that used to be over on the other end of Ball Road and just moving it a little bit south. But there was one problem. There was a road in the way, West Cerritos Avenue. So I'm now walking on Walnut Street, which is the back edge of the Disneyland Resort. Think Harbor to the west. But whereas Harbor is aligned with all kinds of businesses, hotels, restaurant, Walnut Street is lined with residents, citizens of Anaheim that live butted just up to the Disneyland Resort. In videos to come, we're going to break down the relationship between these folks and the citizens of Disneyland, and how Disneyland is trying to come up with plans to keep everybody getting what they deserve. Guests to have a full experience, but people that live over here not to have their living experience cheapened by being theme park adjacent. But our journey with this huge report of starting was looking at Cerritos Avenue, because one of the things I try to do with this series is keep in mind that history repeats itself, and that if you look at the past, you can better predict the future and where you're going. It's funny to think that this road at one point went straight through here, and if you kept traveling on it, you'd end up somewhere around Walt Disney's apartment. What would this land have become if it didn't end up living next to Disneyland? And what would Disneyland have become, or where would it have become, if West Cerritos Ave didn't stop at Walnut Street and kept going like it once did? When I do my Disneyland Forward series where I talk about all the things that could be inside of Disneyland, there are a lot of people that only see the obstacles where I see the possibilities. But all the possibilities that I see are based on the history of Disneyland and its relationship with the city of Anaheim and the state of California. So ignoring the what and focusing on the why, we don't know what Disney is going to put in this space, but let's break down why they're going to remove West Magic Way. Directly behind me is the Disneyland Hotel. There's this parking lot and then 2 more parking lots until we get to the road. The idea is all of this will be annexed into theme park development. Is that a 3rd gate, a 4th gate, or more of the existing gates? To be determined, but today we're looking at the removal of this road and showcasing how this is something that's been done before. History repeats itself in the name of progress. And has a car alarm ever worked once? The urban cricket, I don't believe it ever does anything. I do like though when it takes a brief pause between sets. I guess one of the reasons for West Magic Way to go away is you wouldn't want a street that's wedged between your theme park and your parking garage. Currently, it is a road that allows people to make their way into the various different parking lots, working their way up to the Disneyland Hotel, giving cast members access to some of their parking. So if this becomes theme park development, there is no reason to have this road here. And I have to admit, when I was looking at this proposal, and trust me, it's going to create tons and tons of videos, seeing actual commitment to remove a road made all of this feel so insanely more real to me. This is a 5-lane road, so shutting it down, maybe using an access road between the theme park development and Pixar Pals could already give more space to this sliver of land. And I think this space is going to need as much as possible. There's the new pedestrian bridge, which I believe that would end up staying, giving people a way to get over into Pixar Palace. That bridge was just put up. I believe it opened up at the beginning of 2020, end of 2019. Definitely though, reducing this down to a service road would already give a sizable amount of land over to this project. And when you look at the idea of, can we take a 5-lane road down to a small private service road, which I'm just assuming that's what they're going to do, it's finding every inch possible to make this plan work and to make it fit, because all of the land that is adjacent to Disneyland is the most valuable land for the Disney Corporation, the most valuable land inside of Anaheim, some of the most valuable land in California, or dare I say, the entire country. So walking down this road, you realize the power of the resort and the landscaping that they put in. These trees that are on the back side of me and over on the other side, they act as giant sound sponges, absorbing all the sound. Back on the corner, extremely loud. As soon as I start walking down here, extremely quiet, like giant cushions just taking all the sound out. Soon we'll be doing videos talking about how they plan on sound designing the new park, because it's going to be so close to residents of Anaheim. But the first thing that I wanted to jump into was the removal of this street, just to kind of get you start thinking that for all the naysayers, these things happen. And for the dreamers, it is like a big chessboard. You move the pieces around to try to get the outcome that you want. So many things to figure out, like how the removal of this road is going to allow people access to the Disneyland Hotel, because right now the main thoroughfare into the hotel is directly behind me. Will they have Disneyland guests come in somewhere over on Walnut Street, or will there be just enough road to get you to this road and that this all stays the way that it is? To give you an idea, this section right here, the length of it, you take a little bit out of what exists, that's a Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. That's, I believe off the top of my head, the scope of what could fit in here by shutting down West Magic Way. If we take Galaxy's Edge, for example, backhouse operations, moved them elsewhere and blew the park out. But where this project gets fascinating to me is we're not just taking a part of Disneyland that already exists and converting it over to guest versus backstage. We're taking a road, we're taking a street. And yeah, it's a street that's embedded inside of the Disneyland Resort. Cities don't often let private businesses take over roads, take over streets, even when the business is technically the one that kind of owns it, manicures it, and is responsible for it. This is a big deal. So when I looked over this proposal and I saw that they were taking out a road, that was the moment that all of this started to feel real. And as I've been studying the history of the Disney parks, it's also been fascinating to me because I've come to learn that this is something they've done before. Disney Way going away takes us back to the beginning of Disneyland, and it's kind of a fun place to start this next chapter of Disneyland Forward. So as we see West Magic Way getting removed from the city of Anaheim and extracted from the Disneyland Resort, it's just another small step where there was a piece that was there until that piece was no longer required to be a piece of the puzzle. And one of the things that I love about Disneyland is an incredibly delicate ecosystem built inside of a thriving city, inside of one of the most populous states in all of America. This isn't in the middle of swamp country. This is the middle of high real estate country. And I, for one, find all of this absolutely fascinating, how they keep the balance of progress, but great relationships with not only the community, but their guests at their park, their customers. It is wild to think in an abstract way that this was once Disneyland. This right here, Cerritos Avenue, gave up the continuation of itself so that Disneyland could be built. It's kind of wild when you think about it that way. Obviously, no one can predict that alternate timeline. We're talking about what really happened and not some sort of bizarro Southern California Disneyland multiverse. But it is interesting that this street right here was dead-ended and stopped so Walt could build his park. When I learned that Cerritos Avenue was going through and it was the major compromise that Anaheim was willing to make to bring in the potential of having Disney build their theme park in their city. It just got me thinking, this is an example that we can look back in the past to know that these are things that could easily be replicated in the future. Maybe even more so now in the future, now that the city of Anaheim knows the power of Disney and what it's meant to this city. 2020 was a reminder of what Anaheim would be like if it didn't have the entertainment district, because for 440 days it didn't, and it was crushing to the soul of Anaheim. Here's a really great case study for all the naysayers that go, yeah, they can never do this. There's a road in the way, there's power lines in the way, XYZ is in the way. Progress doesn't let anything get in the way. And when you have strong partners, a great plan, and a history of success, people are willing to make compromises, like Cerritos Avenue, a reality. And seeing Magic Way get removed from the map, we're seeing this happen all over again. So where West Cerritos Avenue once ran exactly where I'm walking, give or take, a little bit to the north, a little bit to the south, I love that the city of Anaheim was willing to remove that street so that millions of people could have these experiences. Coming here and looking at what Disneyland left behind gives it all a very bizarre perspective. And I would love to hear your opinion below. What do you think about this? Price of progress or the damage of capitalism? It's kind of hitting me in both directions all at the same time. This has definitely been a different kind of adventure. Still a Disney adventure, but definitely a different kind of adventure. And what I love about the expansion series that I'm doing over here on the channel is it keeps taking me into all different moments of Disneyland's past, present, and future, looking at all the pieces, reading all the tea leaves, looking at the historical things that have happened, and trying to figure out where it's all going next. And is it all positive? Is it all great? I never want to be that shill that always says everything is great. I'm as honest as I can be. And today, taking this little bit of a journey, it definitely makes me think about the damage that Disney has possibly done to the community around it. But then there's also part of your mind that says, would any of this even be here if they weren't? What does the future expansion hold for the citizens of Anaheim and the people that live around this park? To be determined, but fascinating stuff to explore. No doubt about it. I appreciate you showing up. Nobody's doing content like this, so you just hitting play today makes me realize you're my kind of psycho. And if you're wondering where today's disclaimer was, no disclaimer for today's video. You don't need an imagination. This is something that's already happened. This video was made to show all the naysayers, all the people that lack imagination. These type of things have happened before. These type of things are going to happen again. Friends, I hope you enjoyed taking this walk through Disneyland's past, looking at the history of West Cerritos Avenue, and looking forward to the future when West Magic Way is gonna go away for the progress and growth of the park. If you enjoy these videos, they are incredibly niche. Why don't you do me and you a favor so I can keep making them? Make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a comment below, and like. It really does help. This is extremely, extremely niche content, so I really need your help to keep doing it. And I don't want to beg, but I'm not above it because I love doing this, I love exploring this history, and I love doing it with you. If the feeling is mutual, do me a favor, hit all those buttons. You know what to do. Let's do this together. All right, friends, from the edge of the old West Cerritos Avenue, and also on the edge of an ambitious 60 billion in 17 years in Disney's history, let's get this party started. Thank you so much for showing up. I appreciate you for going on this journey with me.